so let's first of all start with the slightly unscripted bit, which is the assessment days. And really, I thought I'd touch on this because, as I said, there's a number of people who've been asking what to expect if you're going to get round to second stages, and there's some assessments, and ultimately there's kind of lots of different tasks that can be used during assessment days, but often they're looking at something more than that first stage, which was often written, could tell them. So interviews become one of those things. Group tasks become one of those things. And I think in a previous live, I have talked about group tasks as part of interviews. There's also things like sometimes debates. A couple of the big girls' schools will do some debates. Not looking at who's good at debating. They're looking at how well does your child get along with others? How well do they work under pressure? How can they problem solve? Other things that I've seen students do, things like analysing a poem together, things like doing a sample lesson. Even those sample lessons that they're doing, it's a time for a student to get to know a school, but it's also a time for a teacher to see, well, will they work well with the type of students that are in that school? So ultimately, with assessment days, it's fairly similar to the ideas of interviews, because you're looking at somebody, they're looking at the whole personality of a student, and they're looking at, are you enthusiastic to learn? Do you ask lots of questions? Do you get on well with the other students? Those are the types of things that we're looking for those assessment days and those stage twos. Ultimately, schools tend to be a little bit evasive sometimes on how they set out their assessment days, and that's often because they change each year. But typically, it will be some group stuff, and it will be finding out more than what is your child like on paper or on screen if you've done things like ISEB tests. So usually they're a little bit more enjoyable, these assessment days, but they are looking at those personality skills, those social skills. Are you going to be a great fit? Are you going to gel well with the rest of the students? Are you going to put yourself out there and make a point, even if you're a little bit nervous about it? Are you going to partake as part of a team? So those types of skills are skills that are going to be looked at during those assessments. And also, it tends to be those things that schools are looking at for interviews. And that brings us on to the second part of what I plan to talk to you this evening about, which is, why do schools interview? Why do they interview or do assessment days? It's because they're given a snapshot. Often for an independent school, they're given a school report or a headmaster's report. They're given that first stage assessment. But beyond that, your child is a piece of paper when they start, and they really want to know more about them. What are they going to bring to the school? Do they do sport at a high level? Do they do music? Are they interested in other people? If they bored, are they going to get along with the rest of the students? There we are. Apologies for that. Are they going to be able to integrate really well in the school? So a school interviews purely so that they can find out more about you, and also it's a chance for you to see about the school itself. So sometimes for students, it's the first time that they have been able to go to the school, and it gives you the chance to be able to work out, is it the right place? Some school interviews are done by headmasters, some are done by housemasters, some are done by teachers. Again, it's quite variable. I know someone here has asked, is it harder to pass an interview if you don't know about a school's history? I would say no, because you're looking at how a school is interesting to you. And the interview is all about interest. So if you are really interested in their sports facilities, then that will be something that you'll be able to bring up during an interview. So when they ask you, why would you like to come to this school, there will be that point to talk about. Same thing about if you're interested in drama, if you're interested in art, all of those things are worth kind of bringing to the fore, because those are the things that they don't know about you when you come into an interview or an assessment day. Often an assessment day will have an interview in it. Again, you might be given something that would be kind of a team task. So typical ones are you're stranded on a desert island and you've got to pick some items, or you might be asked to make the case for spending a certain amount of money for a charity that you are given. So all of those things, they're not about being right. They're not about ticking a criteria necessarily, except for looking at whether it's the right fit for you. So ultimately, when we're looking at interviews, when we're looking at assessment days, it is about putting the best you forwards. And when I say to students who are preparing for interviews, the easiest way to let a school know about who you are is to tell them who you are, so that they're not left guessing. And the same thing for those assessment days, it's about putting yourself forward. And the more you can put yourself forward and show who you are, whether that is in achievements, whether that is in interest, then the easier it is on an interviewer, on an assessor, to be able to find out, is this person going to fit in well? Because it's that fit that we're looking at. So as parents, how can you help your child to prepare for their interviews? The first is by thinking about what they might look like. And we all know there are typical questions that are being asked in interviews. Ones like, why would you like to go to this school? What are your favourite subjects at school? Being able to articulate why that is, what kind of things you do outside of schools, hobbies, interest, reading. By discussing those, and I really, really do emphasize discuss as opposed to script. By discussing those things with your child, then they won't have that freeze moment that sometimes happens when they are looking and they're asked that question. Sometimes the first time I practice with students, sometimes they do that whole, oh, I don't know, because I haven't ever given this question that thought. So do make sure that you have discussed with your child what might come up in an interview. Now, you won't cover everything, because there might well be a curveball question. And those, again, those questions can be looked at, can be thought about before, but they won't be exact. You'll discuss maybe hobbies and interests, and they might specifically ask on one thing. So they might decide that actually your child plays basketball and that's something they're really interested in. But that kind of forewarned is forearmed. So do make sure that you've had a chat with your child about the questions that might come up, but also have a chat with them about what to expect towards the start and the end of an interview. So if it's in person, make sure that they're aware that the head will probably shake their hand, and as they leave, the same thing, that they should say thank you for an interview. They should be polite. Manners is something that everybody wants to see, really. So do make sure that they're aware of those starting and ending expectations. I posted recently on the group about kind of the last questions that often get asked when they're asking a student, what do you say if you're asked, do you have any questions for us? Make sure that they've already thought about those types of things. The other things that parents can do before an interview, go through something like a YouTube video and remind your child why they want to apply, because you don't want that then they're going to be asked in an assessment day or an interview, oh, why did you choose to apply? And they say, well, mum and dad picked it. You want a real reason. You want a reason as to why they think they're suited towards that school. So do have a look through YouTube videos, if you can drive past the school, have a chat about what it might be like if they were to go there. What would they enjoy doing? What's different? Hello, everybody, and I'm back. There we are. Let me just pop this again up. Apologies for the delay. We had a bit of an issue there with the internet, but we're back. Okay. Brilliant. There we are. All right. Okay. So we were talking about how parents can help their child to prepare for interviews. So not only are you thinking about the questions, but also think about what they might be expected to do on the day. So things like making sure that that they've got everything that they need, that they know what time they're going to be there, they know how long it's going to last. Ask the school, if they're concerned about lunch or snacks or anything like that, then make sure that their questions can be answered. If you can reach out to the school and get some answers, if they've got specific dietary needs, for example, make sure that they're happy that they're going to be catered for. Many students, when they come to do an assessment day or an interview, they won't know anybody else there. So that's totally normal. So if your child's worried about that, then do please reassure them there'll be other people there who will be similar to them. So one of the things that students often come to me this time of year with a little bit of nerves, and that nerve comes around things like really it being an unknown and not being able to work out exactly what's expected of you, because you've prepared and the preparation has been maybe for tests, and those tests, we know what they're going to look like. We know what to expect. We've done lots of practice. And yet an interview, On assessment day, it's a little bit more unknown. Things can go differently. So again, familiarity is useful, but again, I wouldn't say over familiar, because when a student is answering an interview question and you can tell they've rehearsed it lots and lots and lots, it becomes a bit robotic. So make sure that it's been a discussion that you've had over the dinner table, but it's not something that is memorized, that has been learnt. So do go over with them what is expected of them. Ultimately, the idea that an interview is a chat. It's a discussion between them and the interviewer. There's no right or wrong. It's not like a test. They can't pass, they can't fail it. But it is a discussion. Obviously, these assessment days and interviews do help a school to make decisions, but it doesn't mean that there is one right answer in an interview. Also have them think about, and I do with my students, a kind of visualization. I make them think about what that's going to be like going around that school. So if they're really nervous, we go through in our heads and we say, okay, this is about getting my mind really used to what it's going to be like. I'm going to imagine myself going into the school, and that's where those YouTube videos really help. So, imagine going in, imagine seeing the school, going off, doing an interview. Where's it going to be? What's it going to be doing? What kind of questions might you be asked? Have a think about how you might answer them, and imagine the whole day. And the reason that we do that is to help a student who has nerves to be able to, I say, let their brain get used to it, but it's really so that they are familiar. And then help them with coping techniques. So if they were to panic, or if they were to do something wrong during the day, what can they do? So a couple of just simple tips to help them. If you get lost, what are you going to do? Ask somebody about where you are. If you forget in an interview, you've completely blank, what are you going to do? Well, you're going to communicate with the interviewer and say, I'm really sorry. I didn't understand that question. Can you say that again for me? So making sure that they have got a way to be able to combat those nerves, combat what might happen, so that you've always got a coping mechanism. All right. Apologies again for the internet issue in the middle of that, but hopefully that has been helpful